Welcome, Dr. James Beckett, Sports Card Insights. I'm here with Rich Klein. Thanks, sponsors, Topps Panini, Upper Deck, Heritage Auctions, Hugs and Scott Auctions, Mike Stadium Sports Cards, Burbank Sports Cards, ComC.com, and Beckett Media, Beckett Grading, Beckett Authentications. Rich, I've been dying to talk to you about your latest transaction. You have sold out again, and sold out sometimes is a pejorative. In this case, probably not, because like Arnold Schwarzenegger, you'll be back. So what happened? Because you were accumulating a bunch of stuff. My theory is that you had accumulated so much stuff that you were going to have a regular table, and that would restrict your ability to hit the dollar box because you'd have to work at the table.
What happened is that our good friends, Ron and Rhett Palmer, had a vintage deal for me. I've done other stuff with Ron and Rhett on that. In the last two times, we were the exact same number. And the first two times, we were like $50 different. We were pretty much on the same ball.
You mean you each come up with a number and you compare your numbers?
Yeah.
Okay, that's awesome.
We're literally never more than $100 off. And this time it was more like, what's your number? He said, fine. I said, fine. And my old friend, John Statmuller, who in the early 90s created, we'll call it a baseball card fantasy league I was in with a bunch of other dealers and collectors. And he sets up at the show. He's a vintage-oriented collector-based dealer. He had a table. He got a third table at the last Dallas Card Show where he basically had, except not in albums like your friend Dick DeCourcy did, but like in boxes and sleeves, a bunch of vintage commons, and he did really well. I told him what I had, and I picked up the cards Friday, brought them into the house, took a slight peek as to what I had Friday night. He came to the house Saturday. Basically, when I'm going to use the word throw in, I used a Chris Sewell type of math for everything else. And there was enough there where he goes, that's fine. I've spoken to him since. He's very happy. Honestly, we spent 5 minutes discussing numbers and about 35 minutes discussing all sorts of BS as he's loading the car. How me buying to sell, not just what I bought, but everything I had sitting at home.
Okay, so you're doing the same thing that I'm trying to convince my wife, that there's subtraction by addition.
This truly was subtraction by addition.
Okay, so you bought more that filled in with your stuff, and they Ron and Rhett?
They took it to me. I picked it up from them, and my friend John bought it on Saturday with his wife, Carolyn.
Okay, you were the middleman?
I'm the middleman.
Okay, so Ron and Rhett wanted to sell stuff. You were a natural possibility.
And we've done deals before.
Yeah.
And without this, I would have set up in January, but this makes it easier.
Okay, so you got some vintage stuff from Ron and Rhett, then you added it to what you already had
sitting at home.
And then you sold the whole thing to John.
Correct.
Now you're back to ground zero.
Now I'm back to ground zero. I think I bought one heritage pack the last time I was in triple cards. So I have 15 cards right now, or 12 cards, or 10 cards, or however many are in a heritage pack.
I just couldn't do that, I don't think. I would feel, I can't even comprehend not having cards. I've never sold out. I've sold some bulk lots, but not without having a lot more than 3 cards left. How do you feel? Are you just used to it?
This is the third time in less than 2 years. It's like, okay, fine, I'll just start over. And I get to play with what I want. You'll see me in the quarter boxes and the dollar boxes in January.
My point is, you're not going to be behind your table because you're not going to have a table because you got to. But you also sold out when you and Dina got married.
Correct. So this is actually the 4th time I've sold out.
Is it a diminishing returns? Are you getting more money each time as the market goes?
The most money I got is when I sold out in January, when the person who now owns Nick's Sports Cards bought it, because I had a bigger inventory. I actually got a little more money this time than I did in March. And the second most money I got was when I sold out when I got married. I
thought that when you sold your cards, it was because of a non-hobby reason. It was either to...
It's the wedding the first time.
No, I'm saying, I remember that, but I'm just saying, have each of these others been circumstantial like that, or just opportunistic that somebody was looking to buy and you thought, okay?
Opportunistic.
Okay.
And that's fine. At this point in my life, you talk a lot about this, the less I have at home for Dina to deal with at some point if something happens, it's a happier thing to deal with.
I was not happy to think about something happening to you, Rich.
That's true.
It is good to be prepared. Apparently, I'm just going too slow. You just, whoosh, they're out the door.
Well, Jim, one of the problems is you have too much good stuff. Everybody just wants your good stuff first.
I don't want to sell the good stuff. That's
right. That's the point. You need somebody with really deep pockets to get everything.
The problem is I have a lot of good stuff, but I don't have as much great stuff as most people would think because I never went for the finest condition. I was just getting type cards in a lot of cases. So yes, I have a lot of good cards. And you were like that too. You didn't have giant, huge whale, grail kind of cards. You had a lot of good cards. What ComC says you could sell your port, I think it's limited to only 2,000 cards at a time.
I've never sold my port on ComC, so I have no idea.
I'm just saying, if you had more than 2,000 cards, you'd need to do it twice.
Every box I sold at home probably had 2,500 cards in it. And I was actually in the process of prepping for the January show. As a backup, I never assume a sale is going to be consummated until it's consummated.
I know, but I think that you're agnostic as to whether or not you're going to walk the floor and visit with people or sit behind your table and take breaks, but visit with people. So it seems like it became not a financial decision to you.
In some ways, it's liberating. You've talked about that on the podcast very recently. You never liked being behind the table at a show. You wanted to be relational. Actually, many years ago, when Jay Johnson was head of our price guide area, he'd actually get upset at me. You're not getting enough pricing when you're on the road. You're too relationship-based.
Oh.
And I'm always thinking, no, relationship-based is going to help us down the road. And it sure did when I finally got to do the almanac, even though the first one darn near killed me.
I never thought about it. Really, the whole thing about when we were gathering price guide information and stuff like that, and I've never said this before, I don't think, is that I believe quality was more important than quantity. I think some of the people that do price guides now are looking to see how many lines of entries they can have. And I don't think you did, and I don't think I did go for quantity as much as quality. I wanted to find the dealers who were trustworthy and had their own mind about what was fair about pricing. It wasn't helpful for us to go see people that just priced it exactly what we had because there wasn't going to be any information there other than they could tell us what was sold out or what they couldn't restock. So I'm with you. I know where Jay was coming from, but I didn't want to judge the price guide team by how many lines of transactions they came back with. I wanted to know who were the trustworthy dealers out there. And I think you were great at that.
I was and I learned anytime I'd go to a new area, I would try to find, especially if I knew somebody, who is the market maker I need to speak to? Are they honest and trustworthy? And if I was given the go-ahead, I made sure to introduce myself to them and let them be my entree into talking to other people. As you said, I would rather get 20 lines of really solid transactions or, hey, Barry Bonds cards are hot or Mark McGwire cards are hot. You know, in 98, obviously, they were all hot. So was McGwire and Sosa and all that. They were all hot. But I'd rather get 20 lines like you should double the price on McGwire rookies because I'm selling them at 200 and you're listing them at 7. I'd rather get lines like that. Like I'd go visit one of my friends in New Jersey. I remember when the home run chase in 98 was going on, I visited one of my friends. Every McGwire rookie they had was selling at 300 in the store. Like they get one. It was gone within 20 minutes. I remember once I went behind the counter because they were doing something else. Oh yeah, 300. Okay, here you go. Thank you. It was hilarious, but I knew what was going on. And because I knew who to trust as market makers. And that was a big key of it.
Okay. You were able to remove yourself from the emotional aspect of that. Just like apparently you're able to do that here. You weren't thinking, I'm going to sell these boxes of cards that I've carefully accumulated over the last months and years, and I'm going to get a price, and I'm not going to hold anything back.
Because I held that the only things I've honestly pulled from the boxes, my 5-year-old great nephew, actually he's turning 6 next month, had a battle with childhood leukemia. Thank goodness it's in remission and 80% survival rate nowadays, which is much better than when we were young. And Daniel Murphy, who's a decent major leaguer, visited him in the hospital. So I pull any interesting Daniel Murphy card for him because he lives in Jacksonville. Even though he's not been playing well this year, I've been pulling Trevor Lawrence cards for him because he's the best known person in Jacksonville. So that's what I've pulled.
But like those are spoken for. You're not holding them back. They're spoken for, and so they're like a prior arrangement. But
yes,
it would be hard for me to sell a bunch of cards, a box of cards, without looking through it to see if there's anything I'd feel. And I'm not an emotional guy, but I guess I just don't like selling cards. You love cards just as much as anybody, but you're able to release them. And even then, you're not releasing to a collector as much as somebody that's going to resell them.
And
a fair
John
price.
and Carolyn are collector-based dealers.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that. As I said, they had a third table at the show with commons that you could pick through, and they did very well with it. This is going to help even buttress all their commons.
And your cards are going to blend in what they need, and then
Right.
the rest are dupes. Now, you didn't pull back any Joe Cunninghams or Harrison Bader?
This was all vintage. There were no Harrison Baders. And honestly, I don't care if I don't pull a Cunningham because, as we've talked about on the podcast, our old friend Ernie Montella made me a beautiful plaque that has all the Joe Cunningham cards. And he also has an 8x10 signed photo in them. And he's got some of these little pennants the Topps put in the 60s. It's a beautifully made plaque. So if I really want to look at my Joe Cunningham collection, I've got it at home.
Okay, so all your dollar box purchases over the last 6 months have mainly been vintage?
Yes.
So you didn't have very much modern stuff?
I had some modern stuff. If I go to Triple and I buy some packs or an occasional buck.
Why did John want that too? Or he just took it
Because
all?
it was the whole deal. But he also knows that I was really good at the vintage of, he says, if you've gone through a box and you're pulling vintage, I'm not going to follow you through.
You sold it for cash.
I sold it for cash.
It's not an installment sale. So
Not an installment. He
money.
paid me in full.
And-
I was going to be on an installment plan with Ron and Rhett. I paid them next day their money.
Okay, without prying into your personal affairs, is this hobby money for you, or is some of it going to be dedicated to some kind of Dina project or some other thing like that? I mean,
It's used to pay bills.
So is this
I'm using the extra money to pay bills.
okay? So you pay bills and you can still be buying some cards as you go. Okay.
There's always something I can buy. For example, I budgeted X percent. It wasn't a big percent, but our friends at Triple Cards, they're doing Secret Santa.
right.
And I've got a budget
Yeah.
for whoever you're buying the gifts for. You're also going to get cards. So I'm going to get unopened boxes on December 14th at the really cool new Triple store in North Dallas, which is located 100 feet away from the best Jewish style deli in town, Deli News. So but it's a good excuse to just go visit that store if I ever really want to have a good lunch.
My problem with the best Jewish delis is the sandwiches are too big to fit in my mouth.
You cut them in half.
No, I'm just talking about the amount of meat or
So you have to make sure you have a knife and fork with you
Oh,
and then just eat some of that and then take the rest home for dinner.
they're just so plump.
Yes, I know.
I'm just saying, but delicious. But I'm not going to go to that. I haven't done the Secret Santa thing. I don't know that's for me.
Actually, as much as you like opening packs, it's really more for you than for me.
know,
You don't have to go. They'll still give you your boxes. You can go to the store near you and sign up. And
So you have no second thoughts.
I've had no second thought about all three. In fact, somebody said, why did you help him the first time when John bought me out in March? And they said, why did you work the table the next day? And I said, I worked the table because I had flyers for the synagogue show. So I'm handing out flyers for the synagogue show. And my work week was done anyway. So why not promote where my heart is anyway?
And the Palmers, they gave you first dibs.
They gave me first dibs.
So you got a reasonable price. So you
At a
didn't
reasonable price.
probably didn't way mark it up, but did John pay you a little bit more than what you
He paid me a little bit more. The better profit came on the stuff sitting at home.
Gotcha. But sounds successful, Rich. I haven't met anybody that hobbies like you. I haven't met anybody that hobbies like me.
What does our friend John Newman say? The hobby is the people and we all hobby our own way or something like that?
Right. Yeah. I'm sticking to it and you are too. Okay. Thanks, Rich. And thanks, everybody. We'll be back again in a couple days with another episode.
The man in the house of cards. The man in the house of cards. The man in the house of cards is too